great to be back in Little Rock. Some of you I've worked with over the last 3 or 4 years, and I've always enjoyed getting with you and becoming a partner in change in your schools. So I think it's kind of funny that they precede me with mental health, right? Because I'm going to create stress, right? And I don't mean to do that. So today I'm not going to focus on the framework of tests. We're going to focus on getting you ready to do that end of year process with your org admin, summative, career summative evaluation piece, and all that paperwork that's on the computer that has to be done for ADE to pull that data in June. All right? So you all got your new chart. You all got a copy of this new chart, and I don't have it on my computer, or I would put it up there for you. And so what we're going to focus on today is this center box in the bottom, the career summative, and the work around what has to take place in EdReflect so that everything is there and correct for ADE to pull that in June. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the process that we encourage you to use in finishing out your formative columns, these other 6 boxes, and the way that work will look at the end of the year as well. All right? So what I do need you to do is I need everybody on their EdReflect account logged in where you've got this up. And you should have all of your teachers on your dashboard. And I've been told that you are your own organizational admin. So if something is not correct on your dashboard, we need to get that correct today. If you're missing a teacher, if you have teachers on your dashboard that are no longer in your building, how do you clean your dashboard up? Okay? So we're going to start with that piece first, is the org admin in cleaning up your dashboards. So do we have everyone in the room in EdReflect? Do we need somebody with assistance? Getting into your dashboard.
There's some right here. You need the chart.
You were also told to bring a copy of your staff. Correct?
No.
Okay, so hopefully you have a copy of your staff members.
Your rotation.
The rotation. No, ma'am, it's not on, the rotation is not on EdReflect.
Right.
There is no rotation, there's no assignment to what year they're in EdReflect. That is something that you need to be aware of. And if I were you, I would put it on this chart. If a teacher is a 4th year for a career summative, I would place them here on your chart in the middle. If they're a 1st year right out of college, novice teacher, alternative certification, 1st year, they go in your novice year 1. 2nd year teacher goes in novice year 2, 3rd year in novice year 3, and your 4th year of experience goes into the career summative. And so you'll need to know where your teachers fall on this chart. So give me a thumbs up if all of you have already done this process. Some of you, most of you, good. Good. So you should know and have access to the names of the teachers that fall in the career summative box. That's what you're going to need. So let's start with the org admin side. And if I go too fast, just stop me. All right. So this is where everyone should be. You should have your teachers on your dashboard. I need you to go up to where your name is and go over to the organizational admin side. You're going to go to your name at the top, to the org admin. Click on that. It'll take it a few minutes to
spin. Okay. You can kind of just give me some kind of nod with your head if you're with me, so I don't want to move too fast. All right. So the first thing I need you to do is click on Manage Users. Now you may have more than just one box here. Mine is a demo site, so I don't have access to everything you have. But what I need you to do now is click on Manage Users. When this screen opens, you will see all the teachers that you have in your building. If you're missing a teacher on your dashboard, you need to add a new staff member that's not there. You come up and add new user. If you need to delete, you come over and you click on this button right here where it says active, and you make them inactive. And they will come off of your dashboard.
There's no relationship.
No relationship. So if we click on the name of the teacher that has no relationship, or if you need to modify relationships, you click on the teacher's name, and when that opens, you're going to get their profile information and a relationships link. If I scroll down on the profile page, this is where we have lots of mistakes because we don't give the educator the right rubrics for them to be evaluated on. So let me go back. I'm going to go home. For those of you that did not follow me, I'm going to click on Manage Users. If your relationship is not correct, you can click on the teacher's name. You can update from the profile page. This is the profile page. You can scroll down and update their rubrics. Always remember to save when you do that. Save it.
I have left the.
Yeah, what if they
left the district and they're not active? So we just click no, not active. The account is, when it says the account is active, click no.
Click no. Make it inactive. That will take the teacher off your dashboard. I can scroll up and come over to relationship. And this is where you actually assign a teacher an evaluator. So this is the person who would be observing this teacher. So you can add an observer or delete an observer.
Okay, we have several people that have no relationship at our school, so we go click no, and then we go down and click save, and go to the next one and delete all these people?
Yes, so you've got work to do on cleaning up your dashboard.
Yeah, there are people that, or you can have my school ever.
Okay, so we know that there are some people that are on your dashboards that will need to take off. What I've been doing in the past is, and you're unfamiliar with the process because I've been doing it. So what you were doing is you were sending me the names of individuals who were on your dashboard, and I would go in and I would take them off for you. 'Cause I was doing a lot of that. What I was trying to do was now build your capacity to be able to help me do that work, right? Some of that, there's a few nuances that I can still take care of. So if it's too much, and you're not sure, you can still shoot me an email and I will take those few that are on your dashboards off for you. Let's not get hung up there.
Okay, so if we know for sure they're out of the district, we hit no and save.
Yes.
If we're not sure they might be somewhere else, we send
They
that
don't
to you.
deactivate them, that's right.
If you put no on yours though, you're not deactivating them from somebody else in your district. They're just deleting them from your dashboard. So when you put no, you're just taking them off your dashboard. Some other administrator in the district can pick them up and add them to their dashboard.
All right, so once we hit no and save, they're on.
Yes, you'll have to refresh your screen. Yes. And so many of you may have work that you need to do on cleaning up who is actually on your dashboard. But you need to have every teacher that is in your building, that's instructional specialists, GT folks, deans, assistant principals, any certified staff needs to be on there. Not a substitute teacher, not a secretary. Classified staff do not belong on your dashboard. And so this is the way you do it. And if you make a mistake, it's super simple to fix it. You've deleted someone off your dashboard and you need to fix it, you go back and do it the same way we just did it. We go from making them inactive to making them active. You can't hurt anything on this.
Probably the easiest way to clean up your dashboard, though, is not to go and drill down each profile. It's to filter by your school, and then on that master list, we use the drop down right there that's active and inactive, because
Yes,
it'll
you can.
immediately remove them.
Yes.
Complete that.
Yes, you can do that. So what she's talking about is doing it in bulk, as in a large group. Some of you would rather work with just that one to make sure you're doing it correctly. All right. And I want to repeat myself in the fact that EdReflect does not have a place for you to put a teacher in the rotation system on that chart. EdReflect doesn't have a place for it to notify you that they're an experienced year teacher, year 2, or year 3. That is not in EdReflect. You have to keep up with that outside the system of EdReflect. Okay, EdReflect, the system, the technology platform, does not have a way to note that that teacher is a novice year 2 or experienced year 3 or career summative teacher. You can't do that in EdReflect. In February and March, when EdReflect does their updates, is when we will assign the teachers to either a career summative or a no end of year evaluation needed. And you do that every year in February or March. But the system will not keep up with the teachers as they rotate from one year to the next based upon your chart. So you need to keep this in a safe place, because if you're not the leader of your school next year, you're going to need to hand this over to the new leader so that they can then rotate people down on the years of experience so that we get career summative people once every 4 years. The old system was once every 3, now we're in once every 4. So once every 4 years, we have to have the career summative. So let's talk about that vocabulary piece real quick. Because the vocabulary piece is where we confuse teachers because we're confused as leaders. In the old way we used to think, for many, many years as leaders, if we did a summative, that summative included a formal observation, 45 minutes or longer, pre and post observation conference, remember? So we got into the habit of thinking that a formal was the summative evaluation. If we did a formal, that's a summative. That's not the way it works. Formal observation is just one way to collect evidence to add to the summative evaluation. The formal observation is just one way to collect evidence for that summative evaluation. There are other ways to collect evidence through direct, indirect, artifacts, and data. There's lots of ways to collect evidence to add to that summative evaluation for the end of the year. We also need to think about the vocabulary of summative and career summative. So what is the difference between summative and career summative. Our teachers don't know that, and some of us as leaders don't know that. A summative is still when we are collecting evidence of all the components, of all the domains. But that career summative is the same thing, except that at the end of the year, EdReflect will take your ratings and generate a worksheet that averages out all your ratings for each domain. The summative doesn't do that. And it is in a different location in EdReflect than the career summative. So we've got to understand that the career summative, we will get an end of the year worksheet that has each domain averaged out with a rating. On a summative, we will not get that. And they're done in different locations in EdReflect. ADE will not pull the summative, but they will pull the career summative. Okay, that was a lot. Questions? So just those three words, formal observation, summative, and career summative, we need to be able to clearly understand so that we can articulate that to our teachers. So the formal observation, pre- and post-observation conference, 45 minutes or longer, uninterrupted. That is just one way to collect evidence to add to the summative, whether that be the career summative or the summative. Questions before we move on?
I'm sorry, I'm a new person on the block. Do you mind just going? I know I'm not in the report, but
Okay, so you want me to go through it?
just summative, career summative, and
Go through that one more time, just so that you make sure you have it. All right. In the past, we have collected evidence to observe a teacher, and in most cases, it would be through a formal observation. So we would go in, we would sit down, and we would script. We'd have a pre-observation conference, a post-observation conference. We would stay for about 45 minutes, uninterrupted, and we got into the habit of thinking that that formal observation meant summative evaluation. So our teachers thought that if they're doing a formal, that's not summative. They're going to be able to collect evidence for all the components of all domains in that 45 minutes. That's unrealistic. We cannot do that. The formal observation is just one way to collect evidence over the course of the year to add to the summative evaluation. There are other ways to collect evidence in the classroom and outside of the classroom, domains 1 through 4, not just on the stage in domain 2 and 3, but we can collect evidence for the summative for domains 1 and 4 outside of doing a formal. So how do we collect evidence besides a formal observation? Artifacts, there's 4 ways. Direct, indirect, artifacts, and data. And data can be an artifact, right?
Yeah.
Data can be an artifact. An artifact could be data. Indirect observational evidence could be an artifact, and it can be data. Indirect observational evidence is evidence that you did not see or hear the teacher do or say, but you know that's evidence of the teacher's work.
You also collect the data when you meet with the teacher? Or
Sure,
have
you
a
can.
Teacher meeting with the parent or something?
Yes, parent meeting, discipline meeting, IEP meeting, 504 meeting, PLC collaborative team notes. There's lots of indirect evidence that can be loaded into EdReflect as evidence for that overall summative evaluation.
And can you also use, I know you can, but I just want to hear you say yes. And you also use their attendance in workshops and in services?
Yes, ma'am, you
Professional
can.
development?
Yes, ma'am. All of that is data,
Okay.
artifacts. So the formal is just one way to collect evidence. Just a second. I'll come back to you. I'm going to finish answering hers. So that's a formal. It does not mean summative. Formal observation is not a summative evaluation. It's just one way to collect evidence. Summative evaluation can be done on any of these teachers in these 6 areas. A summative can be done and is advised to be done, especially before you consider moving them over to intensive support. A summative can be done on any of these teachers. And a summative means that you have evidence to tag and rate all the components of all the domains. These summatives are done in a certain place in EdReflect that I will show you today. Career summative happens once every 4 years. Career summative happens once every 4 years. That's the center box. It means that we collect evidence to tag and rate all components of all domains. It's done in a certain spot in EdReflect that generates a worksheet with overall ratings for each domain that you can then print and have the teacher sign and send to the admin. Did that clear your question up, ma'am? Okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification, you're saying formal. We have a formal. I thought we had to do a pre-conference, formal, and then a post-conference. So are you referring to formals and informals when you say that word?
No, ma'am.
So
Okay.
formals are no longer pre-conference before it?
So let me clarify her question. Her question is around formal observations with a pre-conference and a post-conference. Formal observation has a pre-conference and a post-conference. There is still a place in EdReflect for you to do that work. And based upon your district protocols, it still calls for formals with pre-observation and post-observation. But formal is one way to collect evidence. You can collect evidence through informal observations. Informal observations do not require a pre-observation or a post-observation conference. And it can be anywhere between 60 seconds and however long you want to stay, right? That's an informal. We used to refer to those as walkthroughs or focus walks. If you've been around as many years as I've been. The new language of the law, the rules and regs, Arkansas ESSA, the word walkthrough no longer exists. And so we would really like for you to get into the habit of calling all those short drop-in visits where you're collecting evidence, refer to them as informal. Those can be real quick, 2 minutes in, 2 minutes out. You might go in and stay 5 or 10. It doesn't really matter. It's considered an informal. No pre-observation conference, no post-observation conference. Yes, sir.
Does the career summative require that a formal is done?
The career summit, yes.
Okay. Does the summative require a formal, or can it be done through a combination of informals as well as consideration of the PGP?
Yes. Yes. When y'all are asking questions, if you could really speak up so that everyone can
Career
hear.
summative requires a form, but a summative doesn't have to, right?
I can talk loud.
Okay, let's listen.
On the informal, I get it with the other stuff that you just said. We also do the reflective question and the next steps with our teachers, just going in, observing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, get back and then leave that with them. Is that part of that process?
The feedback and next steps piece of the informal is your question, right?
Yes, yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
So her question is about, if we do an informal, one of the links on that informal is the next steps and feedback.
Yes.
There is no rules that says you have to do your work a certain way. That form is there. For me, let me give you an example. I had 48 elementary teachers in my last building. I had no assistant principals, no deans, nobody else than me. 48. There were many times that I did an informal that I used that form and never had a teacher come in and sit down with me. No. Right? But there were many times that I needed that teacher to come in and sit down with me for us to talk about it, and I might do the form while she was with me, or I might not do the form at all, and I might just take notes in the note piece under where you have your informal notes that we had this conference and this was what happened in that conference. There's nothing that says you have to do your work one of those ways on a consistent basis. So it just depends. If this is a tier 1 teacher that needs mostly priority 1 teacher that needs more support, then I might want to make sure that I do that feedback and next step form. Okay? So I've got that documentation there. If it's a really great teacher and I'm only meeting with her once, just to touch base, I might take a few notes in my notes section. But at least I've got that documentation there. Okay? It's there for your use. There's so much flexibility in this system that we do our work the way that it best meets our needs. Yes?
Okay, so if I don't do the ratings, will they have will they be able to?
It is very important for you to do your ratings of any evidence you collect, and I'm going to show you why that is so important.
Well, we have been, that's what I want to say. I'm doing the feedback and the next steps and the ratings on informals so that I can get that career.
You're doing the perfect job.
Okay.
That's perfect. Yes. I get that question a lot, is where leaders say, I collect evidence and I put it in EdReflect, but I never tag and rate it. If you're not rating that evidence and connecting it to the framework, how does the teacher know how to grow and get better? They're just seeing your evidence of when you were in the classroom, your notes. But how do they align what evidence you've taken and connect it to a component and then know how to improve on that component if you're not sharing that rating or at least having that conversation with them? But as you collect those ratings, all those ratings of all the informals and formals will be compiled on the aggregated evidence page, and that's where you're going to end up doing your summative with.
As a relatively new administrator, it also helps because you can go in and organize and look at your strengths and opportunities, and it puts everybody on one page and shows as a staff where you might need to.
Where your strengths and weaknesses are. Right. So to go with what she just commented on is that if you're using your insight reports, let's say every 3 months you're going in and pulling your insight reports and looking at your ratings, you can identify teachers in your building that may have alike components that are very weak that you can address, not at the end of the year for summer PD, but you can actually address it in November because you had 2 or 3 months showing that you need extra support in that component. That's a very good point. Yes, sir.
I'm going to go there, and I do not mean to be, but I'm going to say it. Because I got the assistant principals last year to help them in EdReflect. The problem I think that has occurred is you keep talking about tagging and going, and I think I can speak for a lot of people in here, maybe not everybody. They know what you're talking about, but they're having to find out on their own because they've not been taught how to do it. And I know my assistants have no clue. And I'm not putting them down, just saying They just don't
And I
know.
think that's what you started with me, was that at the beginning of last year?
Yes.
And we just never ended up finishing up with that. So we really do need to provide some small group targeted assistance so that you've got an opportunity to practice those skills with me. And I can, those of you that don't know how to do that, I can show you that today, but it's always better to do that in small groups so that you can practice, ask questions as we go along. My purpose today was to ensure that you knew how to do that end of year process, and that may be too much. We may need to back up, do the tagging and rating piece, and then come back to this. Yes, sir.
So to be clear, are we responsible for tagging and rating informals?
Say that question one more time.
Are we to tag and rate informal evaluation?
Yes.
Observation?
That is how you collect your evidence that lands on the aggregated evidence page so that you know how to rate them in the end.
So if we are only putting in information about the observation and then proceeding to next steps and feedback, we're
You're
not doing
missing
it
an
right.
important piece of
We're not doing it right.
Yes, let me show you, just so that you can get a big picture of what I'm talking about with the way it looks.
I was actually doing it, and they said, you don't have to. Yeah, I was actually doing it, and they said, you don't have to.
Okay. Is everybody with me real quick? I want to address the question that he just had around the importance of tagging. I'm going to click on a teacher, and when I click on the teacher's head, it takes me to their dashboard, and then from here I can go to their e-portfolio. When I go to their e-portfolio, it automatically opens up to the aggregated evidence page. This aggregated evidence page is the location where it collects all of your individual ratings of informals, formals, where you've rated your artifacts, etc. This is where you can see the big picture of what you've actually collected and rated. So all of those little red dots is where I've rated evidence that I've collected on an informal observation. Where is that? All right, so I'm going to go back. I want you to go to your dashboard. Pick a teacher on your dashboard where you know you have collected evidence. Just pick a teacher. So I'm picking this teacher. And you click on the teacher's head. When I click on the teacher's head, it opens it up into what the teacher's dashboard looks like. Then you go to the e-portfolio. Click on the e-portfolio link right here. When I do, it opens to this aggregated evidence page right here. And as I scroll down, I see the rubric. All of those little red bullets are ratings that I've given, evidence that I've collected on informals throughout the course of the year. So how do you, at the end of the year, give a summative rating if you've not collected it and rated it over the course of the year? You have nothing to make that judgment on. And we need to be consistent in the way that we rate our teachers on this summative. So if you give a teacher a summative rating and you don't have evidence to support that rating, then the teacher has a reason to grieve. So if we start our process in September of collecting evidence through formal, informal artifacts and data, placing that evidence in EdReflect and rating it, when we get to April
and May, and we get ready to do our summative, we will have evidence to be able to make a good judgment call on an overall rating for each of those components. So let's say this teacher is at the end of the year, and I'm thinking about giving this teacher a summative evaluation, and let's pretend, if you'll look up here for me, let's pretend there are 4 bullets in progressing. Let's pretend there's 4. 4 pieces of evidence where I've rated that teacher progressive, and 2 where I've rated that teacher effective. And I need to give that teacher an overall summative rating in that component. What might that rating be? Excuse me? 4 in progressing, 2 in effective. How would I rate that teacher? Let me ask you why.
Because that's where the majority of your observations have been.
Because it's the majority of your observations. I'm going to argue that fact with you. I'm arguing that fact with you because if I open this, if I open it right here, see, if I go and open it, I can scroll down and I can actually see the dates and the evidence that I've collected. Now what if those 2 that were in progressing occurred in January and February, but those 4 that were these are 2 effective, January and February, these 4 that were in progressing occurred in September and October. Now, if you think about it, what would you give that teacher as an overall summative rating?
Effective.
Effective. Why?
Because she's
grown. And you're showing her the evidence that you have grown, so your overall rating is going to be effective. Even though there's only 2 there.
But it's consistent.
It's consistent. That's right. So without you doing your work along the way during the school year, you are not going to have this evidence on this page to make these final ratings. That's why we do the ratings along the way.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to a classroom and I'm observing this one area. Teacher and I have discussed it.
Should we listen?
She wants me to observe that particular area. And that's the only area that I'm going to rate. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. So you're my teacher,
Right.
and you say, Rocky, I really want you to come in and observe me working with transitions from one activity to another. And I come in and I sit down in your classroom and I stay 20 minutes. I'm going to look for those specific things that you've asked me to look for. But I'm also going to be aware of everything else that's going on in the classroom. Is her objective on the board? Is she teaching the objective? Does she have line vocabulary?
But I've already seen that area and I've already rated that, but she wanted me to come in and do this one specific thing.
You can look at that one specific thing. For me, I look at the big picture as well as that. Because let's think about the reason we look at the big picture and not focus on one thing. Our goals, our PGP goals, are living, breathing documents that can be updated and revised at any point in time throughout the school year. So if your teachers write a goal in May, align their summer PD, come back in August, you meet with them, you agree they're going to work on these 2 goals, and one of their goals is on questioning. Now you spend September, October, and the 1st of November collecting evidence, doing informal observations in and out of that teacher's classroom, and you've collected evidence that that teacher can't really even get to higher order questions because her classroom procedures and classroom management are a mess. But she has no goal written on classroom procedures and management. But you didn't collect any evidence while you were in there. So how do you justify asking her to revise her goal in the middle of November to really meet the needs of what she needs to work on the rest of the year to improve her instruction? So we really should be seeing the whole picture when we go into a classroom, not just focused on one thing on the PGP. Because if we collect evidence along the way, we can ask that teacher in the middle of November to change that higher order questioning goal to classroom procedures and transitions based upon the evidence that I've collected those previous 3 months and put into EdReflect and tagged and rated.
I do look at the big picture, and she and I agreed when we had our conference that I had already scored that. I looked at the lesson plans, I looked at the preparations, I looked at the classroom management, all of that's already been done. But she wanted me to come in during the transition period where she had some difficulties, and that's what I focused on to give her more feedback.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. Let's say you have a teacher who, when you get into her e-portfolio, you see these informals, but you've also done a formal observation of her. Will those ratings be reflected?
Yes, ma'am. Those formal ratings will be there as well.
Okay, mine are not on a teacher, I just do formal.
So you missed a step somewhere along the way, so I'll need to probably look at that for you and see if we can find it. But your formal ratings will appear on this aggregated page, just like your informal ratings will appear on this aggregated page. So, I guess we need to find out if I need to move forward with the end of year process, or do I need to go back and look at tagging and rating evidence so that you can make sure you have evidence for that summit at the end of the year. What?
So, team leaders, how many, I think that we just need to, as a group, come to consensus about that. How many of you you'd like for us to just step back for a moment? Let her take us through the process of tagging and rating?
Please.
Just, okay, is everyone agreeable to that? No?
No.
Yes?
Yeah.
Well, entertain us for just a little bit. Take us back. I think Dr. Mitchell, Mr. Burton, what do you think?
Do a short little review.
Snippet, yeah.
Short little review on the tagging and rating piece. And then we'll move on to that org admin process of career summaries.
Before you move on, just for clarification, career summary, we get the worksheet. The summative, what do we get?
I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint when we get to that point. And you will have that to refer to when I leave and you think, oh, I forgot, you'll have that on the PowerPoint, the handout that you got. You should have picked one up over here. If you did not pick up a handout that has PowerPoint slides on it, you need to get that at some point in time.
Now, once we get through with this portion where she is showing us the tagging and rating, if you still need support, that's what the exit slip is going to be for. You're going to put it there, and then we're going to create a small group session for you to be able to get the extended support that you need, right? And she sent you the link, so then you'll be able to tell us, no, here, I'm still feeling as if I need support, and we'll put it there. We'll get you the support you need.
And then we're videotaping this, and you'll also have a copy of the video.
And Rocky doesn't know this yet, but she'll be back most of the time because we have some leaders who are not here today for different reasons within their building, and we have to make sure that the interrelated reliability of what they're doing is consistent. So we will ask her to come back for small group. We'll ask her to come back for whatever we specifically need. What Mr. Rutherford said is exactly correct. There are different levels. Some individuals, they may not understand the tagging and rating. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page for understanding the whole process. So feel free to ask questions and make sure when you actually exit that you list what you need so we can structure follow-up PD in the afternoons or whatever it takes so that your assistant principals and everyone is comfortable in how we actually move forward with this.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit about tagging and rating, but I'm going to share this one slide with you first. How many of you are familiar with John Hattie's work? Okay? And so, as a turnaround leader, one of the things that I know in order to get my student achievement up of schools that I've had to work with that were about to be either a underperforming academic school, state takeover, in order to get my student achievement up, there were things that I knew that I needed to do as a leader that impacts student achievement. And John Hattie's work proved that as a leader, the number one thing that we can do, that impacts student achievement is to focus on teaching and learning. So how do we focus on teaching and learning if we spend our day in our offices? We can't. We have to get into the classroom. And so if we're getting into the classroom and not collecting evidence and having conversations with teachers, then we're not making an impact on student achievement. And so that's one of the big reasons of why we do what we do with EdReflect. EdReflect is not really an evaluation, I gotcha, zap you tool. EdReflect is a mentoring support tool for teacher growth and our personal growth through leads, if it's being used appropriately. Remember, we only do a career summative once every 4 years. So what should we be using EdReflect for those other 3 years? Mentoring, supporting, encouraging, teaching a teacher the framework, how to go from being progressive to effective and highly effective. And so we want to teach you how to use that system to support that teacher learning and our own learning and leads. So this is what John Hattie says that we need to do. So let's go back to EdReflect. Now, for those of you that really need this tagging and rating support, if you'll pick a teacher and just go along with me, and I'll show you how to complete it. So don't freak out that you're going to be panicking a teacher. Just follow along with me. Pick a teacher, any teacher on your dashboard, and go to the informal spot right here and schedule an informal for any teacher. Just do that with me. An informal? An informal. Schedule an informal. The informal spot in EdReflect is where we collect and store the majority of the evidence that we collect. That's where we put everything. It's in the informal spot, for the most part. So if you can just get really good at that informal spot, you're going to be doing great work. All right, so we're going to click on any teacher and schedule an informal. When that box pops up, you have to click on the date and turn it green. If you don't click on that calendar date, it will not schedule. You can adjust the time. I'm not going to adjust the time right now, but you can if you click on the calendar, move up and down. I'm going to leave it. But here's what I want you to do before you schedule this. See where it says keep it private? Yes. That won't send the teacher an email if you keep it private right there. Because if you schedule this without keeping it private, the teacher's going to get an email, and then she's going to freak out, right? And we're going to just practice here, and then we're going to delete it. So let's keep it private for now. And then we're going to schedule it. And when we do, you will see that it will open up. Here it opens up. Here's a little arrow. Opens up to the teacher that I just scheduled it for. And I'm going to scroll down so that I can see my work. If you're carrying your computer into the classroom with you and sitting down with your computer in the classroom and taking notes here, which is the easiest, fastest way to do it to reduce the amount of time you spend in this work, that's how quick you can schedule a meeting. I'm going to click on the blue link for informal observation. So please follow along. Click on the informal link. And I believe this is kind of where we got to last year when I was working with you. This is a blank sheet of paper. This is your notebook paper where you write all your notes. If you're following along with me, what I want you to do is just do some typing. If you want to do sentences, type in some sentences. I'm just putting in junk right here, right now to make it fast. You can do the same thing, just put you some junk in there. That is collecting evidence. So when I refer to collecting evidence. This is the evidence I've just collected on being in that classroom. That might be evidence of what I saw the teacher do in a PLC. That might be evidence of a 5-minute informal. This is where you collect your evidence. The next step is to tag the evidence. There is only one way to do it. In order to get these boxes here to pop up, if you will notice, the framework is here. There are no boxes beside the component. No boxes. So how do I get those boxes to pop up? I come over and I highlight a piece of the evidence. So practice now, highlighting a piece of evidence. And if you take your cursor, see my cursor, as I move my cursor over to the component, boom, the boxes jump up. Now, I can connect it directly to a component. So I'm going to just pretend this is component 1B. And if you, after you click this component, if you forget to go save it, it will not go over to your aggregated evidence page. You have to click save. I'm also going to encourage you to do one piece of evidence at a time. If in this situation I'm going to click 2 components, whoops, on my aggregated evidence page, it will only show under the first component, not both. That's a little tricky piece of knowledge. Right? So if I really want that one piece of evidence to show a red bullet and the evidence below the framework component on my aggregated evidence page, then I need to not do this and only click 1, then hit save. So do that for me. Hit save. The very next step is to rate that piece of evidence. It's easy to toggle back and forth from the rating page to the evidence page. So I have tagged my evidence to this component. I'm now going to rate it. I'm going to go up to steps. See the steps right here? Click on steps. And there is my toggle page. I can click on rating, and I know that I rated 1B. So if I want to look at that evidence, I can open the window right here. And if I scroll down, there's my evidence that I just collected. And now I can rate that evidence. And there's my little red bullet that will show up on my aggregated evidence page. So the next step would be to go back to steps, go back to my informal, and find another piece of evidence to tag. Save it. Rate it. I'll go back to evidence. So that is your process. Okay. Sheila has asked if you decide later you want to tag that one piece of evidence to another component. You have your collected evidence. next to your steps button. If I click on that, here you can edit the evidence you collected, add a comment, delete it, or I can even tag another component to it.
So we can use one piece of evidence for several different.
If you do it this way. If you do it this way, yes.
So you can't highlight it again and go.
Yes, ma'am, you can highlight. There is multiple ways to do this work. So what works for you may be your best way. She may want to do it some completely different way. All right? The real important piece I don't want you to forget is that if you forget to share this with the teacher, then the teacher never knows what your feedback, your evidence, and your feedback looks like. Always share. All right, so let me show you. There's multiple ways to share as well. Multiple ways. For me, the easiest way to share is to click on the cog. Click on the cog. When I open the cog and go down to what's been shared, then I can decide if I want to share everything or do I just want to share my evidence and I want to keep my ratings private until the teacher rates it. Now I've got a different conversation because the teacher's actually rated it before she has seen what you've rated it. So your feedback conference will look different now.
Go ahead and rate it, you know, share.
All right, so let me show you again. So I can do this from any place within the formal or within the informal. So here are my notes. Steps is where I toggle. Collected evidence is where I can edit it. The cog is where I share it. I click on the cog, drag down to what's been shared. When that window opens, you can share just parts, or I can say, I want to share everything. That is your decision as the leader. Tagging and rating in the formal observation is exactly the same process. Nothing is different. In the formal observation, your note-taking page is exactly the same.
In the on the drop-ins or the informals, I've been using the lightning bolt, and that way I can tag stuff.
Yes, ma'am. The lightning bolt is another option that if you choose to do your work that way, you can. What she is referring to is these little things right here. This shows you that it's a blank sheet of paper. It's just a notepad. That's what I'm working on right here. She just asked about the lightning bolt. If I click on the lightning bolt, then this is where you can collect the same evidence as I did on that blank sheet of paper. The difference is that as I collect evidence here, when I hit the return button, it timestamps it. Then I can later go to my evidence and add a component. Or if you're really good, which I'm not, after all these years, I'm still not good enough to listen and take notes and process which component I want to rate it to. So I have to go back later and connect it to a component if I use the lightning bolt. So you can toggle and do whatever process you want to do in collecting your notes. You can either use a blank sheet of paper or you can use the lightning bolt. You edit your evidence by clicking on collected evidence. Yes, ma'am.
A workflow workflow that I have found helpful for me is that I use the lightning bolt, and I am able to tag it because generally I know why I'm in there and what I'm observing. Then I go to the ratings after I'm done, and I click the down arrow to show collectively all the tagged evidence for that component. And then it shows the rubric, so it's kind of a nice refresher to compare my evidence collectively for that domain and component area before I do my rating. So
And that is a method of
another
work.
example of.
Yes,
what you should
there is
have.
so many different ways for you to do your work. You just need to practice and find which way works best for you. For me, I don't like the lightning bolt. Others love it. I like to just have my blank sheet of paper because I grew up with a yellow pad and a pen. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And my yellow pad and pen is this page right here. And I just type in as fast and everything I can see in here, and then I go back later and clean it up however I want to, just like I used to with my little yellow pad.
Yep.
That works for me.
So if you have to find the way that works best for you. Yes, ma'am.
I also found that we don't always do a good balance of putting the work on ourselves versus putting the work back on our teachers. And that a conversation to start with them, for them to understand this is a professional portfolio of their growth as an educator, holistically stays with them no matter what building they move to in our state. That conversation at the beginning of the year helps. And then I will assign, like if I do lesson plan checks, I'll assign a grade level, and I'll assign an informal in there, and then I'll send an email out to those groups of teachers, and I'll say, please upload a copy of your lesson plans. I'll be reviewing those this week, as an artifact, and then I'll drop in those rooms to make sure that their instruction aligns with their lesson plan. And it's a balance between the hardship as an administrator to do the record keeping and EdReflect that we're all experiencing as we learn, and then putting part of that responsibility back on the teachers. And I do that for more than just lesson plans. I mean, I've done that for parent conferences I've sat in on. I've recently, trainings that we've been putting together, to try to get a full picture and collection of their work.
That's very good. You're doing a great job. That's a great example of how to do work. So this is what your dashboard looks like. I'm going to show you, I'm going to click over here. And so if this is the teacher's dashboard, if I click on the teacher's dashboard, another piece of work that you can have the teacher do is the rating of the evidence, right? And so if we can get EdReflect to come up, here we go. So this looks just like yours. So the teacher would click on the informal observation. This is the teacher's work. This is not yours. And there's the evidence that you collected as the principal. The teacher can see it from their dashboard. So if you've not shared your ratings, you can ask the teacher to actually go in and tag their own evidence. And when they do, 1C, they can save it just like you save it. EdReflect is moving slow on my end. It should save it, and then you should be able to go up to steps, and the teacher can actually rate that component. And why we're not spinning, I don't know. Are y'all stuck in EdReflect too? Is yours moving? But the teacher's work would look exactly like your work. That is the tagging of the evidence. Did that help you, sir? That helped? So do you believe that I need to spend some time with leaders in your building in a small group setting working through this process?
Yes, some of us.
How many of you feel very confident in tagging and rating? Oh, see, that's great. You can do it now. That's awesome. You just put that little piece on it. Come on. Okay. Okay, perfect. That makes me happy. All right. So then, are we ready to move on to the end of your process? Yes. Okay, everyone go to org admin.
Can we cancel that out?
Oh yes, let me show you how to delete it. Thank you for reminding me that. Thank you.
Can we, before we go there, just Mom, they've done great work, can we take just a couple minute break, maybe 7 minutes? And then we'll come back and let's then jump into end of year tasks.
Okay, so do you want to know how to delete this real quick? Let's delete the one you've been playing with. Let's delete it. Go back to your activities, and I call that our home button. So anytime you get lost, go home. Go to your activities button. Go home. If you get lost, go home. That's right. Now here's the one that I just played with. So I'm going to click on the one that I just played with again. And when it opens up, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And if you'll notice, right there is a delete this activities button. Now if I click delete, I'm going to say delete again. And now that informal that I just played with, you can see is now gone. I've had a couple of questions that's come up about the PGP and then my contact information. I wished I had brought my big stack of cards, but I didn't bring enough for everyone in the room. So I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number. My personal cell phone number. And I made a commitment to try to get back to any principal or assistant principal that contacts me before I go to sleep at night. Because we are busy people. And if you got a question, you need that question answered today. Right? So it's ROCCI. Not like Rocky the Boxer. And my cell phone number is 972 983 7540. I've had that number since God created cell phones, so yes, it's a Texas number. I just won't get rid of it. So you can also email me. If you email me, I make the same promise. I will answer your email before I go to sleep at night. My email is my first name, last name, no dots or spaces, ROCCIMALONE@gmail.com. You are free to text me as well. I answer texts. If you leave me a message and I call you back, it will come up Texas. You will probably hang up on me, thinking that I'm a salesperson. So you might want to just put that in your phone so that if I do call you back, you know it's me. I put on 28,000 miles on my truck last school year. From December to January, 28,000 miles. So I do a lot of work while I'm driving. So I don't mind calling you and talking to you on the phone while I'm driving. So if I'm teaching, I will ignore your call and get back to you later. PGP question. Before we move on to the org admin end of year, we had some questions over the break about the PGP. Again, there is no rules of how you do your work when it comes to the PGP. I'm going to tell you what I do and why I do it this way. If you choose to do it a little bit different, that's okay. It's got to work for you. On the PGP, if you look here, in April, you're going to open your dashboard. One day, it's not going to be there. The next day it will be, but right below this will be PGP 1920. I've argued with Ed Reflect. I know Sandra's here. She's my boss. And she knows I've argued with Ed Reflect over this for years, and they won't do anything about it. So I'm going to tell you that when that pops up there and says PGP 1920, ignore it. Don't do anything with it. Don't touch it. August 1st on your to-do list. August 1st on your to-do list. You go to that PGP 1920 and you schedule it for everyone in your building. The 1st of August. If your teachers have written goals in April and May, answered their test questions in April and May, aligned their summer PD with the new goals that they wrote in April and May, those goals and test questions will automatically fill into that PGP 1920 when you schedule it in August. You don't have to worry about it. If you schedule that PGP 1920 in April and May, while you're working with your teachers on their new goals for next year, and take notes there, July 15th, that's going to disappear from your dashboard. It's going to go poof and it's going to be gone. And you're going to come back in August and you're going to say, what happened to all my... It's gone. Now you got to start over. Because they archived it on July 15th. They won't change it. So don't do anything with it till August. Just know that after you schedule it in August, your teacher's goals that they wrote in May will automatically fill. They'll be there. Then you can go to the notes page and take your notes.
So they're writing their goals in PGP the current year.
Current year, in April and May, based upon their learner reflection that we're going to get to in the end of year process. I'm not there yet, Sheila. You jump ahead of me.
I'm just thinking.
Okay. So I'm still working on current PGP year. Let's think. I scheduled this PGP in August. The teacher does their self-assessment. This gives them an opportunity now to reflect on their summer PD and how it impacted their goals. Because they're doing this self-assessment in August. They wrote their goals in April and May. They aligned their summer PD in April and May. But they're going to do their self-assessment in August. All right, because you've rescheduled that PGP. Where you take your notes on the PGP is this blue link here. The date does not matter. Don't get hung up on this date on the PGP. Don't get hung up on the date. Just don't worry about the date. So when I clicked on the PGP note area, this is where I take my notes. This is where you have choice in the way you do your work. I choose to schedule it in August, and I don't close my PGP till May. Why do I choose to do my work that way? Because in September, I asked the teacher to come in to go over her self-reflection, to talk about her goals and her summer PD, and I take some notes there. And then in October, after I've done several informals, I may have to ask that teacher to change one of their goals. So I go back to my PGP, and I put a date, and I take notes about what I've asked the teacher to do about updating a goal, maybe doing some new professional development. Then in January, instead of me scheduling a mid-year conference on that mid-year conference link on your dashboard, which is just a mid-year PGP, something else to schedule, right? Extra work. I just use my PGP. And I put in there, January the 5th, I had my mid-year conference with the teacher, and this is what we talked about. And then at the end of the year, I go in May, and I put a date up there. We've revised our goals, we've aligned our summer PD, and now I'm done with this PGP because it's May. I'm closing. So now I have a running record of my work with that teacher in the PGP. If you close that PGP in August or September after you have that initial meeting, it goes off the teacher's dashboard, it is archived, and it doesn't allow you to go back and edit it. So I choose to leave it open. You may choose, if you close it in September, but you need to meet with that teacher again in December, you may choose to just schedule a new PGP. So you might have 2 PGPs for the current year. See, that's confusing for me. So I just open mine in August, and I work the same PGP because it's the same goals all year, and I work them until May and close it in May. Does that answer, who are my questions that had questions around PGP? That was you, wasn't it? Does that help?
So there's no way to go back and open it back up?
No, ma'am.
Archive it?
No, there's no way to unarchive it and make it active on the dashboard again. And that's why I choose to open it up and close it in May. Now, what's that? What's going to happen to your dashboard?
It's green.
It's going to be red. That's right. And how many of us hate red? Guess what? No one sees your red on your dashboard but you. So don't panic over a little bit of red. Nobody sees it. It just means you hadn't touched it in 10 days, okay? And if you're a priority 3 teacher, which means you're one of the very best teachers in the district, and you're only actually observing that teacher ever so often, you may not have a lot of this stuff to do with that teacher, right? You're going to get a lot of red on your dashboard. It's okay. It's no big deal. Don't panic over red, okay? No one sees it but you. All right. Hopefully that answered those questions. Are we ready to move on? Okay, I'm going to toggle back and forth from my dashboard to your handout. I have the PowerPoint up, and I'm going to go back and forth. And so what I need everyone to do right now is to go to your dashboard and go over to your org admin page. There is work that has to be done at the org admin page before we can actually start talking about the end of year tasks and the process of the Career Summative. Is everyone here? Think about right now one teacher that you know is a Career Summative teacher and that is in this 4th box right here. Get that name in your head and think of one teacher that is a formative teacher, whether they be novice formative or experienced formative, and get that teacher in your head, because we're going to practice assigning those people now so that you know what to do when you leave to get everyone assigned. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go to Manage Users. Just click and follow along with me. Manage Users. You have to do this for every staff member in your building. Every staff member. One will get career, one will get no end of the year. Okay, everybody's with me. The next step is manage users in bulk. On your handout, if you turn to the very last page, these are written directions for what I'm telling you right now. So that if when you leave me, you forget what we practiced, flip over to the back page of your handout, and it's specific step-by-step directions of what I'm showing you now. You can filter these lists of staff by schools. And you also have this area here where it says unassigned and needed observer. Already assigned and have at least one observer. All right? But one of the reasons we're having so many issues is we're all trying to get on at the same time. It locks out. It gets stuck in that spin mode, and we have to refresh it. So when I went through and refreshed several of your screens, it ended up loading. Once you've got to the screen, you may not have any staff here. If you don't have any staff here and it is setting on observer-learner relationships and you have no staff here, that means you've already got everybody assigned. They disappear off your list when you get them assigned. So you may not actually have anyone there. The first step of doing the end of year process is to click on this drop down and go to end of year evaluator assignments. If you click on that and no one shows up, that means you've already got your end of year evaluator assignments assigned. That means you've already assigned who will be evaluating that teacher at the end of the year.
You said click on end of year evaluated assignments.
Right here where it says I'm updating end of year evaluator assignments. So if you have no teachers, once I opened this, it went from relationships to assignments. If you have no teachers here, then you've already got your teachers assigned. if I come up here and open this and assign it, and when I click that, that teacher's going to disappear off my list. They're going to go away. So watch. When I click this and it assigns it, boom, that teacher disappears. So if you have no one on your list, that means you've got everyone assigned already. So don't panic that yours doesn't look just like mine.
So the two names that are probably going to be left in my case are the administrators. Those have to be assigned by Dr. Mitchell.
Those have to be assigned by whoever is appraising those administrators, yes. Okay, the next thing that you have to do, after you get everyone assigned to an end-of-year evaluator, is to click on this and go down to end-of-year classifications. This is the most important piece. End-of-year classifications. That will pull everyone else back up on your list. This is where we decide who gets the career summative and who gets no career summative. So how do we do that? Just look at me before you start looking at yours, because you're going to get lost because you're not following me first. Watch me first. I've clicked on end of year classification. That's the first thing I did. The second thing is I know my teachers. Maybe I only have 5 teachers that get career summative, but I have 25 in my building. But only 5 get that 4th year career summative. So I'm going to find those 5. So I'm going to say this is one of those 5 that get career summative. I'm going to click on that teacher's name and highlight it. The next thing that I'm going to do is below this box, there's another drop-down field. I'm going to click on this, and if you will see here, I can assign them a career summative teacher, career summative administrator if I'm observing my vice principal and evaluating my vice principal, and this is their career summative year. I can assign my vice principal to career summative administrator. Or I'm going to assign them to no end-of-year evaluation needed. No end-of-year evaluation needed will be those teachers that are on these 6 boxes here. No end-of-year needed will be these 6. Career summative will be the center box. So I picked my teacher by highlighting them. Then I'm going to come over and select this as a career summative teacher, and I have to save it. So let's say you've got 5 teachers that are getting career summatives and you know all their names. You can highlight all 5, then go down and give them all career summative and save, and just do it one time, but you're doing all 5 at the same time. You don't have to do one teacher at a time. So I need you to assign at least 1 teacher to career summative, just like I did, and save it. Yes?
When you have a new teacher, they will automatically get the career summative.
No, ma'am.
No.
A brand new teacher right out of college or on alt-cert is considered a novice teacher year 1. They have 4 years before they get to the career summative.
What if they've been in another, they're new to your building, but new to the district, but they've got 5
You
years?
have an opportunity to assign them where you choose. If I get a brand new teacher to my building, and this is their 3rd year in education, and they're coming to me from Texas, I'm going to put them in novice teacher year 3, or possibly over in career summative. Your choice.
Okay, so she could be a career summative.
Could be.
Okay.
If they're brand new to education, year 1, novice year 1.
Brand new to the school.
As education, not just to your school.
Right. This is like her 5th year, so I think she's career summative then, because she,
Okay. If this is her 5th year, she could be experienced year 1, or she could be career summative. That's your choice.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I need you to pick 1 teacher, at least 1, that you know is going to get career summative. Year 4, year 4, possibly year 8, year 12 of experience. If you do it like I do it, I'm going to go year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the way I'm going to assign them. So the teachers that are here is what you're doing for me right now. If you don't do this step, you're going to not have a button on your dashboard that you need. That button will not appear on your dashboard until you do this step.
So we select one.
I'm asking you to practice by selecting one of your career summatives and assigning it, just like I did with that drop down. All right, now then, I want you to pick one that's in the formative years. I don't care which year, just pick a teacher that's in one of these 6. Click on their name and say no end of year needed. Right here, you're going to drag down to no end of year needed. See?
And say.
And say. You have to do that with every teacher in your building. Every certified staff, you have to decide if they're career or no end of year. No end of year are these formative 6 boxes. Eventually, you need to do every one in your building, and this box with all the teachers in it will be empty when you're done, because they'll disappear. They'll just, unless they're down there where they're not relationship assigned, right? Okay, so does everybody have at least one? We're in good shape. Awesome. Here we go. Once you've done that, you're in good shape to go to the next step.
And those teachers, their names have disappeared.
Their name will disappear off this list when you get them assigned.
So I have a question about the novice teachers. So they do, we put in there that they do not live.
A novice teacher year 1, novice teacher year 2, novice year teacher year 3 get this assignment. No end of year needed. Year 4 gets Career Summit. That is so simple. Yes, sir. Novice year 1, 2, and 3, which on your chart is going to be on the left-hand side, 1, 2, or 3, they get no end of year summit. Guys, this is how ADE pulls your data. ADE will pull the data on the ones that you assign to the career summative teacher and administrator. Only that year 4. Okay, so we're going to move on. Everybody should have done at least one. All right, here we go. You can go back and finish your dashboard later. Do you remember how to get to this screen? Do we need to walk through that one more time? Okay. Here we go. I need everybody to go back up to your profile. Go back down to Observer Dashboard. Observer Dashboard. We should be here. You will have something on your screen that I do not have on mine because they don't give me the demo permissions for end of year tasks with EdReflect, which makes it hard for me to teach. That's why I have a PowerPoint. On your dashboard, you will now have a new button that was not there a few minutes ago because of what we did in the org admin site. Right up here beside activity, you will have a new button that says end of year tasks. If you don't have that, we didn't do something correct on the managed users. You don't have that end of year task button there. Did you hit the refresh button? So we're going to walk through this one more time. It should just automatically pop up there once you get one assigned. So let's do it again. Go to your profile name, go down to Org Admin. Click on Manage Users. Let's hope it doesn't take 10 minutes again. We'll go to Manage Users in bulk when this opens up again. This blue tab in the upper right-hand corner, Manage Users in bulk. We have to assign them here. End of year classifications. So the teacher you picked and gave career summative, are you the evaluator of that person? Okay, that's important to know. Because remember, the first thing we did was we assigned end of the year evaluator assignments. The first thing you do is assign them an evaluator. My screen's not filling again. Did yours fill?
Nope.
I just did.
One thing I did notice when we were doing this the first time is there was this big red exclamation mark beside that drop-down box with the top. Did that have impacted anything we did? Okay.
No.
We've got none.
I did this every day this week with some districts. Did it with Wyville, Osceola, Clarendon, Palestine. I've been all over the state this week. And this has done this. I mean, it's worked perfect. So it may just be the fact that we're all in one room trying to get through on one access point. Is it still spinning? If it gets stuck spinning, put your cursor up here in this little area and then hit the enter button and refresh, and sometimes that helps.
While we're waiting on the refresh button, may I ask a question?
Sure.
If you've already done your, end of the year, you've already put it all in, but you put a novice teacher in for a career, how do you remove them?
You will have to pull them back up on this screen and change that end of year evaluator assignment. So you'll do it through this part of the work. I don't know what to tell this one is still here. I may have to come back, Sheila. I don't know what else to do. Sure. Oh, which one is? We're having issues. Technology savvy enough to do this? On your PowerPoint, look at your PowerPoint right now. The first page of your PowerPoint is this slide. This is the directions of what the org admin has to do to set up. It's that back page directions. It's just a repeat. I use this training material for lots of groups, and a lot of times the org admin isn't in the room. So the principal has to then take this information to their district org admin to do this part that y'all are trying to do right now. The next slide tells us the work that you have to do as the leader for both career summative and non-career summative. Who are our non-career summative?
No.
Tell me, who are our non-career summatives? What group is that? That's 1, 2, 3 novice, 1, 2, 3 experience. That's those formative years. So make sure you understand the language. Non-career summative are those formative years on the boxes. That's why that chart's so good to look at. So this is our work as principals. Career summative, that center box, we have to do both the worksheet and the test PGP review. That's different than what we did last year or the year before. Where do we find the worksheet? We find the worksheet in that new button that I'm trying to get to appear on your dashboard up there by the activities. It says end of year tasks. So the end of year worksheet will appear at the end of year task button. So on your handout, you might want to write, where do I find the worksheet? I find the worksheet at the end of year task button. That end of year task button, when we get the system to load correctly, it is going to be on your observer dashboard. And I can't even get my observer dashboard to come up. It's going to be right here beside the activities button. You have your activities button on the observer dashboard. Right beside your insight reports will be end of year task. That's where you will find it. That's where the worksheet will be. And we do the test PGP review. This is the information that ABE will pull in June. Every campus will be pulled independently, so if your campus doesn't have a career summative, you'll be on my list. So we want to make sure that every year we have at least one person from your campus rotate into that career summative. That will keep you off the non-reporters list. Okay? So, when you get your people all in their boxes, make sure that at least one person rotates there. That is the information ABE will pull. I had a principal ask me, where should I start right now today if I haven't been tagging and rating evidence? And I've got all my stuff, but I haven't done any tagging. Where should I start? Start with your career summative teachers. Don't focus on 25 teachers. Focus on those 3 or 4 or 5 that are in the career summative box. Okay? Get those right. And then we'll start off August, everybody on the right foot doing it the right way. Cleaned up. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah. That way you're not panicked about trying to get all, however many you've got on your campus in our high school situations, elementary, those large schools, you're trying to get them all done. Don't worry about it. Let's focus on career summative.
I have a question. I have a teacher that came in from the district like we were talking about earlier with 30 years experience. She's wonderful, nationally board certified. I thought she had to be put into novice teacher formative, but I really want to move her over here.
You can put her wherever you want.
That's just a district thing. I just need to let the district know I put her on the wrong list that I turned in. Okay.
You don't ever put anyone in the novice boxes. Don't ever put anyone in the novice boxes that's brand new to your building that has more than 3 years of experience. Novice is written this way because the law says we are required to provide 3 years of mentoring when they become teachers. So this is a requirement. That's why they're separated.
Where are you talking about?
Okay, so we're going to focus on finishing career summatives. So what do we need to do with career summatives? Get your evidence in, get it tagged and rated for your career summatives, so that when you go to the aggregated evidence page, you've actually got something to look at and make an overall rating. All right. Next page of your slide. Those of you that like written directions, I don't like written directions. Those of you that know me know that I'm dyslexic and I don't follow written directions very good. I do really good with screenshots and pictures, arrows, telling me what to do. So those of you that like written directions, you've got it. Yes?
Not me, but I have a friend and a colleague that may have possibly not tagged all of their informals, but they've done a whole bunch of them. What would you suggest?
Focus on only getting your career summative teachers up to date so that we can get what ADE wants in the system and ready.
Would you suggest going backwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Go find that evidence and find the evidence that you got in there, tag it and rate it. All right?
I'll let them know.
And if you need help, call me. All right, so here's your pictures. The next slide is your pictures. So that end of your task button will look just like this on your dashboard up beside the activities button. And so how do we do the worksheet? So I'm going to go through the first step of this, the worksheet part. I'm starting with this, because that's what ADE is going to pull. We want to get this right. So where do we find the worksheet? We go to our dashboard and we click on the end of your task button that will be beside your activities. And EdReflect is doing the same thing we're doing. They're spinning, so they've got people in their technology department right now working on it. It's not us, it's them. All right. So when you click on end of your task button, this page right here is going to appear on your computer screen, and it will look just like that. If your campus has 4 teachers that are going to get career summatives this year, those 4 teachers will be listed right here. Teacher A, Teacher B, their names are going to appear right there. Her campus might have 4, his campus might have 10. Every campus is going to look different. The key is to have how many there? At least one. At least one. At least one. So I've only got 1 teacher that's going to get a career summative in my building right now, and that teacher's name is Teacher B. So I'm going to do Teacher B first. So the next step would be to click on that teacher's name. So when this opens up, I click on that teacher's name. When I click on that teacher's name, this appears on your dashboard. That's actually the worksheet. How many of you have seen that worksheet before? Yeah, that's the worksheet. But as you can see, we have no final rating. So this is the work we've got to do to get this worksheet to print correctly so that when ADE gets the information, it's correct. So where do we start? We start by clicking on Create a New Snapshot. So your screenshots and the steps are very clear, so that when you're not with me, you can just take your handout and go 1 page at a time. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to start by going to my dashboard, click on End of Your Task, click on the teacher. When I click on the teacher, there's my teacher's worksheet. That's the teacher's name. I'm going to go down here and click on Create a New One. When I click that Create New One, the aggregated evidence page will pop up on your screen. This will pop up. This is where you decide what the teacher gets as an overall rating. It's that big blue bubble that matters. The big blue bubble. And if I can't show you this, I'm going to be out of luck, but it's not going to let me go back over there. Oh, it is. Okay. So that handout that I just showed you, this handout, right here. That will pop up. When that pops up, it will look just like this. This is where you make the decision about what that teacher gets rated on each component. Remember the example, the 4-in-1 and the 2-in-1? You decide. The way you give that teacher a final rating for that component is strictly just by clicking and moving the big blue bubble. It will be very important for you to make sure that every component has a big blue bubble. Look how simple it is for me to miss one. If you miss one, you got to start the process all over again. So when you get to this page, take time to double check that you've ensured that every box has a big blue bubble. After you've ensured that every component has a big blue bubble with your final rating, you click Create Snapshot. That's on your handout slide, the next slide in your packet. You click Create Snapshot, and when I do, you're going to get to name that snapshot. And as you know, our teachers have done many self-assessments, which means they're going to have lots of snapshots there. So when you do this, you need to name that snapshot something specific so that you'll be able to remember it and be able to find it. So I might name it Teacher B, end of year, March 1st. Whatever you decide to name it. But name it something that you know and you can find it. After you name it, you hit Create Snapshot again, which is in your slide here. So there's your handout. Create, name it, create. Now this is where you're going to get stuck. So write yourself a note right now. I'm going to get stuck right here and I'm not going to know what to do. Because when you do this Create Snapshot the second time, it's just going to sit there and do nothing. It's just going to stay on this aggregated evidence page. It's just going to sit right here, and then you're going to think, now what am I supposed to do to finish that worksheet? Well, what you have to do is when you've created the snapshot the second time, you have to come back to your Activities button and go back home. And then you click on the End of Year Task button again. So on your handout in your PowerPoint, I actually told you that. Go back to your dashboard, click on End of Year Task button again, click on that teacher's name again, and this page will open up again. Remember where we clicked Create a New One? This time we're not going to create a new one. This time we're going to attach the one you just created. So this time we're going to click right down here at the bottom and say Attach just created. When I you've decided which snapshot, your next in your handout will show you what's going to show up on your screen. Now, that picture right there is what's going to show up on your computer screen. Now you look at it. You got your worksheet. It says proficient. Every domain has a rating in it. Now what happens if one of those domains don't have a rating in it, or maybe it's very, very low? What happened? You missed a big blue bubble. You missed a big blue bubble. And so I can actually take my mouse on my computer screen and hover over this, and when I hover over this screen's going to pop up and it's going to tell me which domain or which component I missed. So now you got to start all over again. So make yourself a note, double check your big blue bubbles before you go to the next step. Otherwise, you're going to be missing a domain score because you missed a component score. So once this is all correct, you click the share button and you share it with the teacher. How many of you need it printed so the teacher can sign it and get a copy of it? Most of us, yeah, right? Not everybody requires it across the state. I don't know what your district does. But most everybody wants this worksheet printed so that I can sign it, the teacher can sign it, a copy can go to the Ag Building personnel file, and then a copy can go in my file, a copy goes with the teacher. So you click share, and then you're going to come up here to this upper right-hand corner of your screen, and there's a little printer. You can actually print that worksheet by clicking on that little print button. And if you didn't miss a little blue bubble, guess what? You're done with the end of your worksheet. You've created it. So that means we are back over to here. We just finished this. Now we need to do this. So how do we do that? On your dashboard, all the way down to the bottom, there's a link that says Test PGP Review Update. You schedule that for every person in your building. Career summative, non-career summative, get this PGP update. There is one cool feature and change this year about this. They're letting me show you about it. Okay, I'm going to just schedule it like you do anything else. When I open it up, here's the work of the Test PGP. I've scheduled it. The teacher's coming into my office. Before the teacher comes into my office, I want her to complete the learner reflection. It's 4 or 5 questions about her goals. And remember on the self-assessment they had to attach it? Guess what? We don't have to attach it, thank the Lord. We don't have to go panic and teach them how to do that. They click on that, learner reflection, and as soon as they click on it, the worksheet opens, they start typing on it. As soon as they start typing on it, guess what? We can see it. They don't have to attach it for us to see it. Isn't that a good thing? I wish the self-assessment was the same way. That self-assessment causes us all kinds of issues. So we want them to do the learner reflection. When they come into our office, we want to review their goals. So I can click on their goal sheet while they're in my office with me. I can click on their goal. Now here is another trick I want to show you. You're talking to them about their goals. And the teacher says to you, Miss Malone, I mastered that goal. Man, I accomplished it. I did great. I don't want to do that goal next year. I want to start fresh. Right? That's what we want them to say. And you say, great. I'm glad. We're going to go ahead and click that big blue button. It says mark as achieved and archived. And as soon as you do that, principals, it's going to turn green and it's going to go poof into outer space and you're never going to be able to find it again. Literally. And then your teacher is going to do what mine did, call me a week later and say, hey, Rocky, can I see that goal that I wrote last year that we marked as achieved? I want to write my new goal this year, kind of like I wrote that one, and I want to review the way I answered those test questions. Guess what? You can't get them. They're gone. Nobody's checking on what you do with this. You do not have to ever mark a goal as achieved and archived. You don't have to do that. What you can do is just tell the teacher, hey, that's awesome. Why don't you go back to your dashboard, your goal planning page, just click on that sticky note and backspace it out and update your goal. And then her test questions are still there, and she can just revise her test questions. Now, won't your teachers appreciate that? Instead of having to start from scratch, you've given them an opportunity to continue growing and just editing that goal, revising it. Now, know that, you need to know that this date right here is never going to change if you do that.